Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Bryce, and I'm so excited about this show today. My friend, my fellow Georgia sister, Jessica Jones, the cryptid huntress, is coming back today to tell us a story about Robot Grandmama. I know very, very little about this story, and to be honest with you guys, Jessica, we were out together in the woods walking around looking for Bigfoot when she mentioned this to me that I should look at this story for my channel because we're very similar in these weird stories that we cover on each other's channels. And I said, you know what, Jessica, why don't you come on my channel and tell my audience the story of Robot Grandmama? So I'm so excited that she's coming on today, you guys. But before we get into this episode, I would like to give a big thank you to all of our patrons and our producers here on Esoteric Atlanta. Without you guys, this channel would absolutely not be possible. If you would like to join our Patreon and or our producer community, there is a link down in the description box below. And once more, before we get into the video, I just wanted to take a moment again to talk to you guys about the Esoteric Academy, which is my own business. For many of you guys, you know that this is what I do for a living off of YouTube. I am the only female in the state of Georgia to carry a particular authorization from KPJAYI. And my friend Paula in Australia and I have opened up the Esoteric Academy. Now, I'm on the Esoteric Alchemist account. So there's 3 different tiers. There's a free tier, a paid monthly tier, and the third tier is for special workshops. So this is the regular monthly tier where you get a lot of good information. We have all sorts of different exercise classes that I have done specifically. We also have forbidden interviews with special guests, different meditations. We have courses, the academics of spirituality. We have so much stuff in this particular virtual mystery school. Even once monthly, we're going to be doing live calls in a live class where we get to talk to you guys. I can answer your questions, all that kind of stuff. On top of that, we do have a community board, which I'm not going to show you on the internet because it's private, where all of our members of our academy can communicate with each other and communicate with Paula and me as well if they have any questions. Now, we're in the soft launch phase of the Esoteric Academy right now. So right now, tuition is $25 a month, which is so freaking cheap for the Esoteric Alchemist, that middle tier. That is so cheap, you guys. That is like the price of a drop-in, one class, an hour class in a yoga studio. And you get that for the entire month with thousands and thousands of dollars worth of courses. We have a Bhagavad Gita course, an Alchemy of Movement course. We're about to be loading up a Vedic chanting course. There are so many different healers and teachers that we have here, all of them who are master teachers. We're about to put up a Vedic chanting course. I might have already said that. So much. In the springtime, I'm going to be doing an Ashtanga beginner course. We already have an Ashtanga course on the platform, but again, in the springtime, there will be an Ashtanga beginner course available. Now, on the 20th, we go into our grand opening, which means that the tuition does raise to about $40 a month. That's still extremely cheap. You're still getting thousands of dollars of information at a very low price. However, if you buy a tuition before the 20th, we will grandfather you in and we will keep your price at $25 a month. So you'll be getting a $15 discount. That's a way for us to say thank you. Now, again, because we put this online, we have unlimited seating for you guys. So that is why we're able to keep the tuition really low, is so that we can help as many people as we can virtually with the information that we have. With all the knowledge that I've learned from India, I can bring it to you at a very low price on the internet versus in a studio. I mean, guys, courses in a studio run like a couple of grand, so I get to do it really low for you because there's unlimited seating. And so hopefully this is a win-win for both you guys and me. If you would like to sign up for the Esoteric Academy, there is a link down in the description box below. Welcome to Esoteric Atlanta. My name is Bryce, and today we're going to be talking to the cryptic huntress, Jessica Jones, about Robot Grandmama. All right, you guys. I know I already did the introduction, but you guys know my girlfriend, Jessica Jones, another Georgian like myself. Well, I'm so excited to have you. I feel like we've hung out, but like, that kind of happened. Like, and then all of a sudden, like, we need to get back on each other's channels. We've been hanging out in person, but how are you today, Jessica?
Oh, I'm excellent. It's so good to hang out with you. I always have so much fun.
I know, we're soul sisters.
Oh, absolutely.
Both
Absolutely.
both from Georgia. And so you guys, before we go any further though, before we get into it, I'm just going to go ahead and remind you guys, if you have not subscribed to Jessica, the Cryptid Huntress, I know a lot of you guys are huge fans of Jessica, but if for some crazy reason you're not subscribed to Jessica, I'm going to have her links down in the description box below. And I was just talking to her. I cannot wait to watch this episode, y'all. We were talking offline. I've never heard of this before, Jessica. You did this last night, right? Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, streamed 11 hours ago. So I am so excited about watching this. You guys, Jessica is obviously, cryptids are her thing for the most part, like Bigfoot, Dogman, these weird animals, beings that we see, but she also remote views. I will put all the episodes that we've done in the past together in the description box as well, Jessica. And if you guys, Jessica also, did that pull up your website, your shop? Sometimes
Yeah, it did. It did. Thank you.
You guys, Jessica also makes beautiful jewelry. And so I'm going to be placing all of these links down in the description box below, because as we move into this new crazy timeline we're in, we were just talking about that off camera as well, we definitely want to support small businesses, right? That's kind of how, I feel like that's kind of what America was founded on, is small businesses. And so you guys, and this is all, and War Woman, that's a very famous road up in like the Clayton, Georgia area. And I was just on Jessica's channel a few days ago, where we talked about skin S-walkers, as Jessica says. I was off of War Woman Road when it happened to me the second time. So, that's a very cool name for a shop. So it's Native American, right? The War Woman.
It is. It is. It's based off Cherokee legend or just Cherokee tradition, actually. And yeah, it is. And what a coincidence, man. I know there's a lot of Bigfoots up there in that area too.
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. Not just deliverance. Deliverance is the least of their problems, right? There's a lot of stuff going on up there in the Appalachian Mountains, you guys. So I was telling them in the introduction, Jessica, that you and I were out gallivanting in the woods looking for Bigfoot poop and all that kind of stuff. And you had said to me, we were talking about, the weirdness of war. And you said, you said to me, goes, have you heard of this Robot Grandma? You should cover her. And I was like, why don't you come on my show and tell us about Robot Grandmama, because I'm dying to know. So with that being said, Jessica, I'm going to pass the microphone off to you to tell us a story, tell us a tale of the Robot Grandmama.
Oh my gosh, Bryce, this is such a wild story. And first of all, thank you for promoting my shop. And so that's so sweet of you. I appreciate it. And the shop's on sale, y'all. So everybody,
we're war women. We're here together. We're on the same team. We got to support each other, right? So.
Thank you so much. That is so sweet. Okay. Well, okay. So this came across my path. I didn't go looking for Robot Grandma. Robot Grandma found me. Okay. And so I do a lot of work with people who actually, I've got several key people that do shows with me pretty often. And one of those people is my friend Arkeem Ra. Okay. And he was actually I want to say he's a survivor of the Montauk Project. And he's part of Project Phoenix. He has a very interesting background, and I've actually taught him how to task me with some remote viewing targets to give me some coordinates. They're blind targets, so he knows how to put coordinates on these targets and send me the coordinates, and then I remote view it. And we've been able to like really dig into some of the experiences that he's had. And this one right here is not an experience that he had, but it was something that he was interested in. He and his fiance Kat. So I give them full credit for this, for bringing this to my attention and giving me this target, because I had never heard of it at all. And I got some really crazy, strange data for the remote viewing. But this story is wild, and this really happened. Okay, out of Mount Shasta, the Mount Shasta area in Northern California. Okay, now Mount Shasta is a very enigmatic area, and there's a lot of stuff that goes down over there, a lot of Bigfoot sightings, Bigfoot activity. Bat squatch has been seen over there.
Okay. Bat squatch? Is that like a combination of a Sasquatch and a bat?
Kind of. Yeah, I just did a show on that a couple of weeks ago.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch. Wow, more things to
Yes.
be afraid, not afraid of, but more things to be interested in, right?
Yes, exactly. And so, but I'd already, okay, so I've gotten several remote viewing targets that involve Mount Shasta, and we'll get into that in just a minute. I had one target that it was given to me by my friend Tyler from Journey to Truth podcast, and it was Area 51, like level 27 underneath Area 51, and it was based off the testimony of this retired Lieutenant Colonel Billy Fay Woodard, I think it was his name, and he was in the, I think it was in the Air, he was either Air Force or Navy, I can't remember, but he had given testimony that he was a liaison between the Lumerians and the military, our U.S. military, and Tyler was wanting me to remote view his experience, and it was a blind target, and he claimed that he was taking a shuttle, like a bullet train, from underneath Area 51 into underneath Mount Shasta, and he was meeting in where all the Lumerians lived down there under Mount Shasta. Okay,
That's interesting. So they're not an extinct species.
they are living under Mount Shasta currently, apparently.
Interesting.
My data aligned with his testimony, actually. So I believe that he was telling the truth. This gentleman actually disappeared as of the past decade or few years, and some people believe that he actually went to that place to go live with the Lumerians. So,
oh, really?
yes. So I just wanted to kind of state that first because it may have something to do with this robot grandma stuff. Okay. Also, I'm a big proponent of putting it out to the public about the information on the missing people all over our national parks. Yep. And we do have a cluster. We have a big cluster of missing people. If you go, according to the David Paulides research, he has a book series called Missing 411. And there's a cluster of missing people at Mount Shasta.
Yeah. And I want to say real quickly, especially for our non-American audiences, I think, Jessica, a lot of people who are not from the United States or Canada or Australia or Russia, the big countries, don't realize how far things actually are from each other. So that's close to, 447 miles, but Area 51 is right outside of Las Vegas, and Mount Shasta is up in Northern California. And that's in the Oregon and then Washington State, which I've covered a lot of the Washington State stuff where there's some strange occurrences happening in that state as well. Isn't there? There's like national parks up there too. So that's interesting. So you say he got on an underground train?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Straight to Mount Shasta.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's actually maps you can find online of the deep underground military bases and the bullet train systems that kind of go in between each of them. I mean, they go all over the world, even through the ocean, across the other continents. Yeah. So, it's a thing.
Us peasants have to fly economy for 12 hours.
Exactly. We don't have the luxury of, going on bullet trains underground. They have the technology. They're just not giving it to us. Okay. So we're not special. We don't work with the Lumerians underground, I guess. Not all of us.
We just get Robot Grandma.
We get stories like the Robot Grandma and
Bigfoot.
And Bigfoot and Spat Squatch. So yeah, this is a perplexing story right here. But going back to the missing people, and we have an epidemic of just crazy proportions right now of all these people who have gone missing out of our national parks. And this story goes back to 2011. And there was
pretty recent.
Pretty recent. Yeah. I mean, this kid is like 20 years old now. Okay. Or, in his late teens, I guess. He was only 3.5 years old at the time. So he was really young. I remember when my son was 3.5, he was just, he'd been talking for a little while, I guess. So he was able to express himself. And it was right before going to pre-K, 4 years old, I guess. So, but he went missing out of a campground at Mount Shasta. And I've got my notes here because I don't want to get this wrong. Okay. Because a lot of people do know this story and they, I don't want anybody to come at me. Okay. So, and like I said, this is a target that our Kimra and Kat, his fiance, gave me. And so I had no knowledge of this before when I got this target. But here's the story. This is how it goes. Okay. In Fowler's campground in Northern California, a 3.5-year-old boy went missing. His parents quickly notified the authorities, and within an hour, hundreds of people turned out to search the area for this kid. Okay, within 5 hours, the search beginning, a deputy found the young child hiding in a bush. He was reunited with his parents. He had an interesting story to tell about his experience. He told his grandmother, I was going to say his other grandmother, because there are two grandmas here. And this little boy I guess his grandmother was babysitting him a couple of weeks later, or about a month later. I mean, it was a while later. And the grandma was babysitting him, and he said, I didn't like my other grandma, Cappy, because he called her Grandma Cappy. And she...
so the actual grandma, the real human grandma, he called Cappy. So he's saying he saw another one of her.
Oh, not only that, he didn't just see her, but the Grandma Cappy is the one who kidnapped him, who took him away. And so he said, I don't like my other Grandma Cappy, who grabbed him that day and disappeared and took him to a creepy place, is what he said. She took me to a creepy place. And the other grandma was a robot. That's what he told his grandma. The grandma was like, what? They had not really pushed him to find out exactly what happened to him because it was so traumatic.
Again, how many hours was he missing? Or how long?
I believe he was gone for several hours. He was gone for because they said that it was within 5 hours of the search beginning, a deputy found him in a bush. Okay. So within 5 hours. That's a long time. Gosh, being a parent, I would just, I don't know, I couldn't deal with that. Not knowing where your kid was. Of course, I would get my whole team of remote viewers to go figure out where he's at, and we'd find him. But nonetheless,
I think Ben is scrappy too. He's scrappy.
Yeah. He's always got a weapon on him. He's got something hiding in his
They would have picked the wrong kid if they'd been like, can we bring him back now? Because he knows how to fight us. He knows too much.
They'd pick the right kid. They'd pick the right kid for that. And I have no doubt he wouldn't put up with it. So, okay. So he said the other Grandma Cappy was a robot. Okay. And he's claimed that she took him off to a cave filled with old guns, purses, and bags covered in cobwebs and dirt. Remember, I did say that this is a place where they have a lot of missing persons clusters right there.
Yep.
And this place has all of these people's personal belongings covered in cobwebs. And he realized that it was not his real grandma when light sparkled on her face and he realized she was a robot. According to him, a robot is defined as someone made of metal and had a remote control. Isn't that wild?
But she must have been like a size of his grandma for him to
a replica. She was a replica. Last night on that show that I did, some of my data involved replicants, a replicant. And right underneath that, I wrote clone. And I didn't know what a replicant was. Okay. And I had to look it up, and it was weird because in my data, I had written clone underneath it, and then replicant is a clone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it was a clone, and that he told her that she actually asked him, what do you mean by a robot? And he goes, well, she was able to be controlled by a remote control. He said there were other people in the cave who had distorted faces and they did not move. The other grandma walked him outside and left him at the bush where he was later found by law enforcement. The real grandmother, Kathy, said she had been camping. Listen to this. Grandma Cappy, 1 year later, had been camping in the same campground. She said she was in a tent. I believe she was in a tent, and her friends, her best friend and her husband, were camping in a RV or a camper. And she woke up one morning outside of her tent, face down. Her neck hurt, and she touched it, and there was blood on the back of her neck. She had 2 puncture wounds on the back of her neck and did not know how she had gotten outside her tent. One of her friends, the husband of her friend, woke up that same morning and was outside of the camper and had puncture wounds that were bleeding on the back of his neck too. The exact same campground. What is it? Fowler's Campground? Y'all be careful going to Fowler's Campground.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. But she said that it all started rushing back to her when the kids started saying that. And I think she was wondering, well, did somebody take my DNA and clone me or something? Like, what the heck is this? So she had puncture wounds. Her friend's husband had puncture wounds. And so people, now the story's out. People are like, well, did she get cloned? And they had her there. I mean, so the kid said that there were people that were not moving. I think he described them as like mannequins. Okay. Because there were people who looked human, but their faces were distorted and they were not moving.
So maybe they were robots that weren't turned on?
Robots. I mean, like AI robots, but like clone replicants. Yeah. Like this is like the international symbol for robot. Yeah. They're robots. So it's kind of terrifying though, right?
Yeah.
And okay, so here's something else that happened. Okay, and I don't have it right here in my notes, but I do recall this. He also said that something very strange happened because she was the robot grandma was asking him all sorts of questions, and she was telling him, don't be scared, don't be worried. We are actually, I believe she said she was from another planet, and don't worry, but they had actually implanted him in his mommy's belly, and they were just there to check up on him.
They were planning on giving him back anyway.
Yes. Yeah, they weren't going to keep him. But they just came to check on him, and she asked him to poop on a piece of paper.
A fecal matter test.
Yeah. I know that sounds weird, right? Gosh, I feel like I talk about poop way too much on my shows and on other people's shows.
You can learn a lot. Doctors do that too. They'll take fecal matter to see what's going on a lot of the time.
Well, that's what she wanted. She wanted a stool sample. And she was he was not able to do that because he was uncomfortable and it was making him upset, and she was getting irritated and irritable, and he was like, I can't do that. You can't just do that on demand, So she didn't get any. Yeah. When he couldn't do that, I think she started getting real frustrated. And I don't know if he was crying. I'm sure he was probably crying. I would have been if I was 3.5 years old and somebody was trying to get me to do something weird. And so eventually she said, well, here, I'm just going to take you back. They're going to find you right here where I put you. So she's the one that actually guided him and put him in that bush, put him where that bush was. And that's where the deputy found him. So it's an all around strange, weird story. That's one of the strangest stories I'd ever heard, actually. And out of there.
I've got some thoughts too, because the Cassiopean, now I don't know if you've heard this, Jessica, and this answered some questions for me. Because with this whole idea of cloning, the Cassiopeans, which is a forum that we follow, they've not been wrong. They've been going for 34 years. They talk a lot about the concept of organic portals. Now, an organic portal is 50%. So 50% of the human population is organic portals. What this means are these are people that don't have souls. So they're organic in the sense that they can be utilized by 4D negative entities to cause, have you seen that thing going around, Jessica, where people are figuring out that there are people in this world that don't have a constant inner dialogue?
Yes.
Which is so weird to me. That's an organic portal.
There's a lot of those people. I've been doing a lot of shows on like artificial humans lately too.
I think that's kind of the same thing. So they don't have souls. So now what's interesting from the Cassiopeans is that they say that the only humans that can be cloned are organic portals. You cannot clone somebody who has a soul. So what's interesting to me, Jessica, when you talked about the fact that the kid picked up on her being a robot, they might have taken the grandmother's DNA to get an idea of her physical appearance and then tried to mold it around a robot. And maybe that's how they're finding the loophole to clone souled people who have souls. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah,
I don't know. That's because that makes sense that you can't clone someone who has a soul because they're created by God. But if they're trying to find a loophole to do that, they could take the DNA and then because you could take our blood and they could tell exactly like what eye color we have, to target this child because they really only are curious about people who have souls. So they're only gonna like really mess with people because people who have souls are juicier, right? They're juicier. An organic portal is just an empty vessel, right? Like it's like getting a chocolate bar with nothing inside, right? So, what do you think about that, Jess? I mean, from your experience with remote viewing.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of people running around here that don't have that aren't totally human. Okay, and by human, I'm always asking the question like, what does it mean to be human? Okay, and I think that having a soul is a big part of it. Okay, and man, just in all of my days, I mean, I know a lot of people. I've met a lot of people in my lifetime, and I have met people who had no soul.
Oh,
I know they did.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean they were just mean or anything. They just didn't have a soul. They were dead.
There's a lot of them. So a lot of organic portals would be what we called narcissists, like people who have narcissistic personality disorder would be mostly would be an organic portal, except for the rare occasion where it's a distressed souled being, souled as an SOULED. Person with a soul that's in distress can behave like a narcissist, but an organic portal is always going to behave like a narcissist because they don't have any type of self-reflection. They don't have any type of thought. And for people who have souls, who come into this earth with souls, according to the law of one, the darkness will utilize organic portals to try to destroy and self-destruct. So empaths are people with souls. So who attracts narcissists? Empaths.
I know, man. Yeah, I was married to one of those.
I've been around a lot of them.
Yeah, that's really it's it's like the age-old thing. It's like, empath, narcissist. Yeah, I had to do a lot of healing from that.
Same, and that answered. But the idea that they could, because I believe that this grandma Kathy and her son obviously have souls, because why else would they be curious in this little boy? Mm-hmm. And you have to, like there has to be a genetic tie there. So I think that might be how they're loopholing, how they're trying to loophole creating clones out of people with souls is by making them building a robot and creating the mannequin-like look of the person they're trying to, especially for a 3.5-year-old, maybe if you were older and you saw someone that looked like your grandmother and you noticed right away some weird, but
the uncanny valley. Yeah.
3.5-year-old what now? Jessica, have you actually, girl, I would love it if you haven't seen the show to watch it and then we could do a show on it. Have you seen the show From?
No.
Oh my God. Okay, so when you talked about a cave with mannequins and like possessions too, right? Of people who have been missing. Is that what you said? 2 possessions? Let me show you. So let me guys give you the brief premise of From. They are 3 seasons in. I can't wait for the 4th season. It's from the same people who created the show Lost, but they learned their lesson with Lost, and they assured the audience, because with Lost, the first 3 seasons were good, then it derailed because they didn't actually have an ending. They didn't know it was going to be picked up. So with From, they actually created the whole story before they cast it and shot it. So From, FROM, is about this town where people, you might take a detour off the freeway and people get stuck in this town and they can't get out.
Yeah.
And people come from all over the United States. They'll be in Florida and Washington. They all end up in this town. So obviously this town moves and they can't get out of it. Well, not only that, but at night, these monsters come out.
Oh my God.
And they're almost like black-eyed kids in a sense, in that where they knock on the door, let me in, but they'll mimic people in their lives, try to get them to open the door. And so they have these talismans that they put. So the whole show premise is like a mystery. Like, what is this town? Who are these monsters? Well, I pulled up some screenshots because as season 3 goes on, you get to know the monsters better. These are the monsters. And I was going to see if they had any of the caves.
Oh, geez.
Monsters are in. So,
oh, my God.
It's don't show your kid, like hide your child. Let's see, from monsters. Let me see, cave.
Oh, my God. My son will be watching that. That's right up his alley.
I mean, the first scene opens up pretty violently, but it's one of those things that, like, after you see it, after you've seen a few of the monsters, you kind of get used to it, to the, they're not going to show any of them. So the caves, you see like all these possessions in the caves where the monsters sleep during the daytime. So sometimes the people of the town have to go and they try to go into the caves during the daytime when the monsters are sleeping, to find things, to try to figure out where they are. So here's some of the promotional material from it and who these monsters are, where they come from. But I actually, you know, because there is a lot of that cryptid, you know, because we don't know who these monsters are. Like, they're one of the monsters. You don't know their story. You know that they have immortal life. So they're you know, you learn that in the series that they can't really die. And so these random people, like the guy who plays Boyd Stevens is from Lost, gets stuck in this. It is one of the best TV shows on. I mean, it's so good. And so let us know. I mean, I've talked about this on TikTok before, you guys, because there's a lot of great like show people on TikTok that go through these shows. But y'all, let us know if you want Jessica and I to like, because I think having your eyes on this, Jessica, because you're used to, because we know with all these TV shows, we know there's an element of truth.
It's soft disclosure.
Yeah,
with a lot of these shows, 100%. What is this on Netflix or where do you find this?
It is MGM Plus. I can't remember. I think maybe Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Let me Google it, because it's been we just finished season 3, so I can't. Let's see. Where to watch from?
That looks so good. It looks really good. I would totally watch that.
Yeah, for those of you who are in the United States, I just where to watch from. I've never seen it on YouTube, but yeah, Amazon Prime is how we've watched it.
Oh yeah,
and
we got Roku.
Yeah,
we got all that.
So it's a great, and you have 3 seasons available to you. So yeah, it makes you. It's so funny when the show first aired. I looked at my boyfriend. I was like, it might actually be kind of nice to get stuck in that town, because we go to bed so early anyway.
Oh my God!
Today you're just free to do what you want. Like, they have houses there that you just claim as your own. Let's put the talisman up at night, put your headphones on, and go to bed. Like, it might be a nice little break from them. Because there's like no commerce, you know, because they're stuck in this town together. But they have like this bar where they make like alcohol from potatoes.
Potato alcohol.
So
well, I would hate to have to walk home from the bar to the house with monster heads like that.
All the houses are kind of all together. Like, it's weird. The town is weird too, because it looked like at one point it was a town, but it's not a town anybody can find because it's not a permanent location. It's wild, you guys. But when you were talking about the cave and this robot grandma and the mannequins, it brought me back to those scenes from where they're in the daytime, they're going in the caves and they're trying not to wake the monsters up, and they're there, and then they've got all these items that they've collected over the years from these cars that go through, and all the stuff that's in the cars, the suitcases, you know, that they've collected and put in these caves. And it does go back to the missing persons. Like, so many missing people. It makes you wonder, are they all dead? No, probably not. Are they in a different dimension on this planet? Like, these people seem to be in a different dimension.
Well, a lot of those cave systems do connect to these deep underground military bases too. And I mean, I've had my friend Nick Sylvester on my show several times, and he's real big into the truther movement, and has a show of his own called The Bridge with Nick and Dylan over on Rumble. And he and I have talked about how the government here in the United States, he claims, and I believe him, that the government works with cryptids. They actually work with different ones to do kidnappings, assassinations, things like that. But mostly like kidnappings and terrorizing people.
I'm sure. But
why wouldn't they?
Wouldn't put it past them. Have you seen the show? And guys, it's funny, all these shows are coming out now when we're going through what we're going through with our government. But have you seen the show Severance, Jessica?
I've heard of it.
It's a great review. We don't either, but these are just great. So so there's a lot of mystery with Severance as well, and I've talked about it with my friend Nora. Severance, people think a lot of suspicion is that it's going through the Montauk Project, like what happened, where they actually sever people's mind from their work life to their home life, and there's kind of a mystery with it. But there's a lot of references to like these crazy, Montauk projects. There's a lot of references to the possibility of shifting timelines through brain severance and like the power of the brain, and cloning. There's things about cloning, and so all of these shows are kind of coming out now. Oh, and that's a good Yellow Jackets. Oh God, girl, that's about cannibalism. So,
oh my God.
So hello, like this is kind of what we're dealing with. in our society as these shows start to come out. So what do you think, Jessica? What do you think Robot Grandmama? What do you think it was from your experience? What if you had to say this is what I think this was, what would it be? Like in front of a Congress or something?
In front of Congress.
And
God
like,
forbid.
yeah.
Oh my God. What a mess. I think that it's legit. I think it's some sort of, I mean, it could even be like some kind of AI robot or something, but some kind of alien tech or something, or some kind of alien being that probably did this. The kid was probably part of some kind of human hybrid alien program. I mean, a lot of people are part of those programs and they have no idea. So I think it could have been something like that. I mean, he was only 3.5. Kids like that don't lie. He's not going to make that story up.
No.
That's not a story that a 3.5-year-old would make up at all. He doesn't have the capacity to he doesn't have the experience to make something like that up.
That's weirder. And the funny thing is, if he hadn't been gone for 5.5 hours, you might think it was his imagination. But the fact that it was 5.5 hours. But Jessica, that we were talking offline about this gets into blood types as well, because we were talking about I'm Rh negative, and I've done this on my show before. But as an Rh negative, I started looking into it because we have even though we're all humans, we have different side effects. Like the back of my eyes as an Rh negative are shaped differently. They're in a diamond and not a circle in the back, which is why a lot of Rh negatives are diagnosed with astigmatism, like myself. But it's really, we process light differently. So a lot of Rh negatives, like my boyfriend, who's also Rh negative, he's had a lot of like alien experiences, because you can catch it with your eyes and the light's different. We also have a lower body temperature. Like my body temperature is in between 94 and 96. So it's a lot lower. There's a lot of other stuff that's weird. And a lot of people think that Rh negatives are a hybrid of, even like my skull shape. It kind of is that skull shape of what you would think of an extraterrestrial. And it's just so I agree with you. I think there's a lot of us that have a lot of extra. I think that's kind of what the 12 tribes of Israel is like the different galactics that make up our actual DNA.
Mm-hmm. Man, this is all tying into that 800 million year old
you want to talk about, because I'm dying to know.
It's all tying in together, and the whole Montauk thing. I spent a whole week up at Montauk, New York.
Yes,
with a whole group of survivors of the Montauk program up there last year, and we went to go heal the land up there with all of them, and also because they were opening. It was supposed to be the 20-year anniversary of a biorhythm portal that opened where the USS Eldridge was going to show up. It was wild. I have a really cool life right now. It's really interesting. Girl. But yeah, I was up there with them, including Arkeem Ra, who gave me this target big time. I mean, I've got really deep into knowing exactly what the Montauk project is. And it is all about time travel, teleportation. And it was also horrible because all these kids got very abused and kidnapped and put in these programs and stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know. What was your question?
Well, what you think this is, what you think this actually is. I mean, so do you think that this child was perhaps a hybrid?
Yes.
And now so they're obviously using like they'll look at particular DNA of people in order to put souls in particular DNA vessels. So perhaps his parents, perhaps even the grandmother herself was a hybrid and they didn't know it. And most people know.
It's all bloodlines and genetic. I mean, I talk about on my channel sometimes about how my great grandmother and my great aunt on my mom's side, it's always on my mom's side. Well, my dad's side too, a little bit, but my mom's side, they had an alien abduction experience driving down the road in Rome, Georgia.
Oh, I don't blame you. Yep.
Yeah. But they didn't think it was that. They didn't call it that. They said that they had been taken out of harm's way by angels, is what they said. But a light came down over their car on a highway in Rome, and they were driving at night, and the light came down, and they said the next thing they know, they were like a county or two over. An hour or more had passed, and they were 20 miles away from where they remembered being. So
it doesn't surprise me. Rome, Georgia I swear it's a portal for all sorts of stuff. Well, that makes me, I've been watching on TikTok a lot. When we were kids growing up, Jessica, there was these, and even for my boyfriend, he was born in 72. The public school systems would pull kids to test them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And kids are starting to have memories now. Kids, they're like they're in their 40s now. They're starting to have memories of this and realizing that they were being tested for psychic abilities.
Yeah, I remember being tested.
I
There's
remember.
the talented and gifted program. That's what Arkeem talks about all the time, about how he was pulled out through that program, and a lot of other people have been with that secret space program.
And that's what, so my boyfriend was pulled a lot. Now he grew up in the military, so every 4 years they moved around, but he got pulled a lot. And then I went to a private school, so they didn't call it that, but I remember getting pulled in the 3rd grade. And I remember getting pulled from class, and I remember my parents being there and another man being there, and they had me do these like word problems. And it pulled me from class. Like, it's like so, when you do that to a child, it's traumatic because they're getting pulled from class. And then I remember the guy sitting there looking at these word problems and looking at my parents and going, she's solving math problems on an 8th grade level. I was in 3rd grade. And I remember talking about something, and I looked back at that, and then I just went back to class and nothing ever happened again. Nothing ever happened. So what was that? That's my question, is what was that? But you know, it's interesting, Jessica, we're learning now from a lot of these whistleblowers that things can happen to you as a child, and then they do something that you don't remember it.
Mind wipes and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that I'm friends with that believe that they have done like 20 years in the secret space program, and they were taken as a child and then put back in their body after 20 years and woke up. You know, they were taken at night, and then they woke up in that body back then at that same, like 8 years old or however old they were, but they had already lived 20 years as an adult and off planet somewhere, and then they're put back in that body and they're 8 years old again, but they've already lived like a whole full adult life. And so it's really perplexing.
Off our younger body when we're like 60, 70.
Yeah, right. No, it's like they had gone and they'd already gotten like married and, you know, and all sorts of weird stuff. Like, I mean, it's not weird. That's not weird, but like all sorts of stuff, that living a whole other life somewhere else.
Like,
and then they wake up.
Yeah.
They wake up and they're back in that child's body again.
Do you know what's crazy, Jessica? When I first opened my channel and started getting into this weird stuff, and I had just covered Somerset Belanoff, which I think that episode actually got a strike, so it's probably not there anymore. All my juicy ones got strikes, but I remember saying around that time that I have had, ever since I was a small child, as far back as I can remember, I've had this unbelievable fear of Antarctica. Like, unbelievable. And I remember being in the 1st grade, in Miss Monk's 1st grade class, and I remember looking at the globe and talking about the northern and southern hemisphere and being really glad I lived in the northern hemisphere, because Antarctica was upside down. And I always thought that's what scared me. And I had made a mention about that, like when I went to Australia, and I flew to Australia, I had to take a bunch of pills to knock me out because I was so freaked out about going down under and like being that close to Antarctica. Well, I get this random email from this person. She sent me like a couple of emails after that, basically saying, you don't remember, but I remember you. You were in Antarctica as a child being used.
Whoa.
Now, I don't know if that's true or not. It could just be a crazy person. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. But I remember getting like goosebumps reading that, because I've always had this like incredibly unrealistic fear of Antarctica. I just don't want to be near it. It really freaked me out ever since I was a small child. So I totally believe that they can do stuff like that. And I think it is genetic. I think it does come. I was like you. I always thought the weird stuff was on my mom's side of the family. But then I started researching my dad's side of the family, and I was like, shit, this is even juicier.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. It is totally probable that you could have been in those programs. I mean, knowing who you are, Bryce, and hanging out with you, there's a reason we're friends. And
Maybe we were together.
Yeah, I know, right? That's right. I mean, that happens pretty often, actually, with a lot of people that are in these programs. The ones that are public, especially the ones that I'm friends with, and they say that, you know, they get contacted sometimes, and they're like, well, I found out this because this person remembers me through this program, and they all start remembering through each other, you know, and it's kind of like a snowball effect.
Yeah. I mean, I have no memory of anything like that. This person only sent me like 3 emails about it, and that was it. And I just never, you know, because how do you, if you don't have memory, but you have unrealistic fears, then there is that slight possibility that what they're saying is true, but you also don't know, right? Because
right.
You don't know. You just don't know.
You don't know.
You
And
don't.
people will argue too. They'll argue, be like, well, that's just, it's false memories, and they're just trying to, it's that hive mind and things like that. And that's one of the arguments of some of the, and I that's just an argument that some people have about it. So, and I understand that, but
I would tell, and I would be just very just what I've studied of blood types and bloodlines. I would just and I'm not a parent, but my advice, like I look back at the school I went to, which I think is absolutely an Illuminati school, and I make no bones about that. Like it is absolutely, the school I
I
went
don't
to.
think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. I know some of the things that go up around that area.
That I'll just say it,
I'm
Darlington.
familiar.
There's someone's making a documentary about all the abuses that have happened at that school. I mean, they've had law school. I mean, but it's a very expensive school. There's a lake with swans on it, like it's a fancy dancy school, and and I do credit them for my ability to like sit down and research, because I think that's how I learned, was through the work that was given to us there. And I went there my whole childhood. That was my school, and I do think it's an Illuminati school. But every summer, as a child, we would go to for our physical, every kid goes to physical and all that stuff for school, but we would have to have our fingers pricked for blood testing every single summer. And looking back at that as an adult, I have a big question mark about why they wanted our blood types. I mean, for me as an O negative, the most important thing that people need to know about my blood type, as far as like an academic setting, is that I can only take O negative blood, and I have to. They can't. I'm the universal donor, but I can only receive. But being in a school like that, you're right by a hospital. So why would the school need to know that if there's an emergency situation, the hospital's right there? So I don't understand why, when you do blood panels on a person, it's because something is wrong. Like there's a reason why there's a health issue that they want to check a blood. You don't just do a blood panel on a person every year for shits and giggles, do you?
It sounds like a blood ritual, actually. So, I mean, if the school does have ties, and I'm not saying this is for entertainment purposes only, okay, but if the school does have ties like that, and there is some kind of, obviously, from experience, from what I've heard, there's ritualistic stuff going on there. I know from firsthand, actually secondhand, but someone who lives around there told me about some ritualistic stuff that goes on with the elite up there. Yeah. And happens at least once a year. And there's probably something to do with the blood. Okay, and they're wanting to. I mean, I'm only assuming, but maybe there's some kind of ritualistic thing going on with the blood.
And I'm O negative, and so I look, and I just, if I were and I don't blame my parents, they didn't know any better. But I would ask as a parent, why is it necessary for you to run a blood panel on my healthy child? This doesn't check her heart rate, check her blood pressure, and then let's get on with it. Like that, you don't need to run a blood panel every single summer on
your school.
I know.
It's your school. That's weird. It's
very weird looking back. Well, I will say, so I have this one. Now what's weird is middle school. I loved middle school there. Mr. Van Ness was our principal, and I think he kept middle school really great. Like that was the one area where there was very innocent, and it was but high school, I have like missing memories from high school. And I don't know if you've ever been on the campus, Jessica, at Darlington. Have you ever been on that campus?
Yes. One of my good friends from school ended up going to Darlington, and I have been by there. It's not too far from like Shorter College and stuff, yeah. Right? So this is actually the same county where my grandmother and my great aunt were potentially abducted by aliens too.
Floyd County, yeah.
Floyd County, y'all. Yes, Floyd County.
Well, on the campus, now they've built a whole new, I'm 42, so this was obviously years ago, but they built a whole new like athletic center across the street. But when I was there, they had what they called the old gym, which was up on the upper school's campus and kind of in the back. And you go to the old gym sometimes. They didn't really utilize it that much, but there was this like locker room in the back and I always hated going back there, the girls, where you go pee or something. But there was also bathrooms up front. So a lot of times we just go to the front. But for some reason, one day a friend of mine went to the locker room in the back to go pee. And we walked in there, and I always hated being back there. It always made my stomach. I always felt very uncomfortable back there. And there were all these adult teachers standing in there in a circle in like the locker room. Like we opened the door, and they were all standing in a circle looking down, and then like one shoot us out. And that memory has stuck with me. I put something about it on Instagram once because I was like, what the hell was going on in that that change room? Why were there multiple faculty members in there, men and women, in the girls' locker room when you've got high school students doing classes out there and there's a toilet, like they're going to the bath? Like, what was happening? What were y'all looking at? What were you standing around and looking at? Like, I don't understand, how many faculty members does it take to change a light bulb? Like, what are you doing? This is crazy to me. And you know, there's all those cross-country trails up behind the school, and you just have to go and like look at the architects. The architect is very Illuminati there. It's very checkered floors everywhere. The chapel is red carpet, which I always thought looked really tacky when you went into it. I bet I can pull a picture up. And now we know, and I'm just saying this again for educational and entertainment purposes only. I'm not saying that this is for real. But in my opinion, chapel, the red carpet is the same symbolism as the red carpet in Hollywood. That's the inside of the chapel. It looks the same as when I was there. And that red carpet, in my opinion, is super tacky. Why would a super elite fancy school have this tacky? I mean, that's blood ritual, right? That's what that symbolizes. For educational and entertainment purposes only. And so I just think what we're learning, Jessica, is that we need to be like hyper vigilant, because it's everywhere, isn't it? This crazy stuff. It's everywhere.
It is. And Rome's a small town. I mean, regardless, it's not like the metropolis of Atlanta or something. I mean, that Rome is it's a big small town.
Yeah.
And this is where this stuff goes on. Okay, it's not always in the big cities.
It's a very wealthy town too. I won't go there. Like, literally, my mom and stepdad moved there again, and I don't go there if I don't have to, because every time I go, I leave with scratch marks all over me. So I try to avoid it at all cost. And there are 3 rivers that meet in Rome. Berry College is super weird. I know some of the berries, and they are very strange to me. I have a lot of questions about them myself. And there's 3 rivers that merge together in Rome. And so we know that back in the Native American times, the Romulus and Remus, I mean, that's the Romulus and Remus, but it's right downtown Rome. Like, it's kind of weird to have that particular with anyway. But we know the Native Americans, they use the rivers. And so there's a lot of energy flow there. That makes sense. So
yeah, there is. Romulus and Remus. That's an interesting story. They were suckling the she wolf out here, and I talk about she wolves pretty often, and she werewolves actually. It's just very interesting symbolism. I believe that statue was gifted to the city of Rome, Georgia, by Rome, Italy,
as a sister city. Yep. And I've heard allegedly, I'll say allegedly, that this can be a sign for I can't say the word on YouTube, the P word, inappropriate behavior with children, the P word.
Oh, really?
I've heard that from people, that it could also be so, you know, the funny thing is about Rome, Jessica, this is what gets me. And I question my mom a lot about this, because, you know, in the South, we're a group of people that are very proud of our heritage down here. None of my family is from Rome. My mom's family is South Carolinian. Like, she's from Charleston. Like, the Bryces, my mother's maiden name, University of South Carolina is the Williams-Brice Stadium. My grandmother's cousin is the late Strom Thurmond. They're very South Carolinian. But it's like they get like brainwashed in Rome. They get this and they call it the enchanted land. And I've said to my mom before, I don't understand this. We're not from here. This is not this. We were brought here for work, but I was born in South Carolina. So I don't know. It's just very strange. It's very strange. These places in the world exist, though, and you feel it when you're in there. Like, when you're sensitive, you feel it, don't you? Like, I see people. It's almost like it's a Stephen King novel. It's like you feel like you're walking into a live-action Stephen King novel.
Yeah, there's a lot of places like that, and actually, just right down the road from there in Tryon is the Corpsewood Manor, where there's satanic guys live. Dr. Charles Scudder and Joseph Odom, I think was his name, and they built that castle in the woods. And that's one of my. I've gone to research there because we have like dogmen and werewolf sightings around there, Bigfoot activity, and then the Chickamauga battlefield's right there as well, where like 34,000 people, soldiers died over 3 days.
Yeah.
Of the battle, and people go, and that's Corpsewood Manor right there. Yeah, that place is super, super creepy. And when I went there, the place was covered in blood. Blood was everywhere. And, we're going back to this blood issue. I was given this as a remote viewing target. I think it was before, I can't remember if it was before or after we went. And I remember that it was a blind target, and I kept hearing the land requires blood. The land requires blood. And it was wild because when my team went there, we did an investigation. It was beautiful during the daytime. The story behind this is two gentlemen came down from Chicago. Dr. Scudder worked at Chicago University. He helped to create LSD 25, I think is what it was called. And he brought some of that down here with them, down to Georgia. And they built this castle with their bare hands, made the bricks themselves. And they were Satanists. And they were actually friends with Anton LaVey, the head of the Church of Satan. And rumor has it, I don't know if this is true, but rumor has it that Anton LaVey actually instructed them like where to put their house exactly. On that property out there in the middle of nowhere in, Tryon, near Tryon, Georgia. And they had, to this day, they still have, both of those men, by the way, were unalived along with their dog. Their dog's name was Beelzebub. Okay. And two of their great, I think they were mastiffs. And those two men were unalived there, brutally unalived. And people go there to this day and do rituals. They called this place Devil Worshippers Mountain. And that's right there near Rome.
Yeah.
Where that school is.
I covered this a very long time ago when I first opened my channel. And what's crazy is that, so here's, let me see if I can pull up. I actually would love to go here with you one day again, if you want to.
Daytime. I'll totally go in the daytime.
Daytime, yeah. No,
daytime sucks.
My dad had a lake house. I'm gonna see if I can show you guys. Rome, GA to Tryon. So we had a lake house in Mentone, Alabama, which we would drive by some of these locations. And there's some crazy stuff that goes. Why isn't it pulling up? Let's see. All right, here is the map. Why isn't it? We got this construction going on next door, you guys, and I swear to God, it messes with our internet all the time. So this whole area, so this is Rome. And this whole area, I don't know why it's not giving me. Let me go back. It's just, it's crazy. It's so, the air is so thick. But in Rome, Georgia, it's like, I don't know. And even like Cave Springs.
Oh, Cave Springs. That's where my mom's best friend got unalived up there. Yeah. It's just a wild place. Okay. Well, actually, we never found his body. So we don't know if he's unalived or not. But his house burned down and it was all very suspicious. A lot of weird stuff goes on up there, man. A lot of weird stuff goes on up there.
So this is what I was looking for, the map. So here's Rome. There's Tryon, where the Corpsewood Manor is. It's only 36 minutes away. And we had a lake house in Mentone. There's Mentone. And up here also is Howard Fintzner's garden, Paradise Gardens. Have you ever been there too?
I have actually. And yeah, we took a train ride all through North Georgia. And we ended up at Finster's house, or I guess it was his home, and
that's one of the good parts of that area. He was a famous, but it's interesting that you have all this energy up there for good or for bad. And we would go there all the time. It's in Somerville, Georgia, and the guy was a famous artist. He's no longer living, but he did this garden of junk, but he turned it into art.
It was kind of, I remember it was like, this is like junk, but it's folk art. So yeah, give me a new appreciation of folk art. Okay. When I went there.
Yeah. So, and he would write on his art. He would do he would do paintings as well. And he would write, half the words are misspelled because he didn't really have an education. So that's an interesting story. REM, the band from Athens, Georgia, did a lot of stuff at Paradise Gardens as well. There's some video. Georgia is full of just very high strangeness, as you say, Jessica. Georgia is full of high strangeness. It really is.
And eclectic artists.
And look at this.
Yes.
My mother had a ton of Howard Finster art. It was in our lake house in Mentone, but it got broken into and everyone stole their art. So, but yeah, the High Museum up here does shows with him sometimes. So yeah, y'all, I mean, we really, the more we learn, the less we know. Like, where are we? Who are we? What are we? What is this? Like,
yeah. I'm all suspicious about who's human now and who's not. Always keep your eye out for those robot grandmas.
Those robot grandmas. So, if you're a souled person, if you have a soul, meaning you have internal dialogue, I wonder what it'd be like to not have internal dialogue, like just to go to point A to point B in your life and not have a constant thought process happening. Like, I think my anxiety would just go away at that point. Right. But anyway, but you guys, so fun, Jessica. I want to do way more with you. I want to go out. We want to go and hit up some of the Moon-Eyed people locations in Georgia with their artifacts, you guys. I want to go to Corpsewood Manor with you. We want to do all these things, you guys. And if I can figure out how to go live on my cell phone, we'll go live on our cell phone. So
that would be awesome. I would love that. We got to take a tour. We'll just start. I had somebody email me about that the other day because we talked about that on my show.
Yeah, we want to do like a tour company.
They're like, if you do a tour, I want to come. So, but I wasn't thinking we were going to do it like and bring people with us. I thought it was just going to be us. But I don't know. Maybe we'll expand. Who knows?
Listen. With what's going on in the government, we might have extra money to like build new businesses. We can call it Steel Magnolia, or Gone with the Wind tours. I don't know. That's a great place to go. Have you ever remote viewed Barnsley Gardens?
No, but I've stayed there. I've stayed there. I've been there. That place is really beautiful. But
my sister got married there. I think I covered it. I'll put a link, guys, if I can find it. It was one of the first. That is allegedly what Gone with the Wind was based off of. But when I was a little girl, there wasn't a resort there. It was just ruins.
It's beautiful out there.
And it's apparently cursed and haunted. It is beautiful. It is. I had so much fun. Like, that's a great place. If you're looking for a great venue to get married, because you can stay there and you can just drink and have fun and you don't have to worry about anything. So,
I didn't get to drink and have fun when I was there. I was there for work. When I worked for the state of Georgia, we had a meeting out there for like a week or a weekend or something, and it was just beautiful.
It's beautiful. Well, a mysterious prince. That's another deep dive, you guys. A mysterious prince like bought it back from when I was a kid, when we were kids, when it was just ruins, and like created the golf resort around it. A lot of celebrities go out there. But these are the ruins, but there's like all here. That's kind of what it looked like when I was a kid. And there was all these gardens out there, and they built a resort and a golf course and all that kind of stuff out there. But I will tell you, my poor sister did not get to drink and have fun at her own wedding because she had gotten pregnant right before.
Oh no. I mean, it's good.
She was sober. She was sober for her own wedding. So, but yeah, so it's a beautiful place. It's gorgeous. There's a spa out there now. But yeah, when I was a kid, it was just the ruins, and that's up there in that Adairsville area. So that's near Corpsewood Manor and Rome, and it's all that whole area. So or not Adairsville. Is it Adairsville? No, where is it?
I don't remember the name of the town that it's in. It's just Barnsley Gardens. I stayed in one of those houses, actually. It's like a cabin house.
It's like the outskirts of Rome, one that's all outskirts town. So there's a lot. There is just, I just avoid Rome at all costs because I leave there with scratch marks all over me. And it's not good.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, it's crazy. I would love to hear if you guys have if our audience has weird places in their state or country that has robot grandmas and weird occurrences, high strangeness, let us know down in the comment section below. Because, yeah,
we'll look into it. Maybe
you're not crazy.
You're not the only ones.
You're not the only. Don't worry, you're not crazy. So, any parting words to our audience, Jessica? When's your next show?
Oh my gosh! Well, I have 4 live shows a week, so my next show would be this weekend on Saturday. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but Saturday I have shows every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And so my night shows are Thursdays and Saturdays. So I've got a show called On the Hunt. I usually talk about, cryptids of some sort. I bring people on my Saturday night show that have a lot of field researchers that are people who live amongst Bigfoots and things like that. So that would be my next show. But
oh, cool.
Yeah,
you guys. Cool. So she does a lot. I was telling her I'm looking into getting StreamYard so I can do more live shows myself. But she does all these live shows. You have your schedule up here, don't you? Or is it in the?
It's somewhere. It's in the about. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. So you guys, that's Eastern time. So for my audience members who are not in America, Eastern time is the same as New York City time. So if you look at your phone, but you should absolutely. You have a great audience.
Thank you.
So make sure you guys join Jessica because she has all these crazy stories. And again, the good news is, Jessica, I think for a lot of us that have experienced weird things our whole life, now we know we're not crazy.
I know, right? We just have confirmation there's other crazies.
We were a little bit crazy, but
got to be a little crazy to do what you and I do. Especially what I do. I'm out there becoming Bigfoot burritos and Dogman burritos in my little hammock tent in the middle of nowhere.
I could never do that. I'd be like, I'm out. Yeah. I'm out.
I love it. Yeah, that's my thing.
All right, you guys. Well, make sure you check Jessica out. Make sure you check out Jessica's store on Etsy. And, today's Valentine's Day that we're filming. So if there's any dudes out there that forgot, go buy your girl some jewelry.
Or some candy or something. Don't go home empty-handed. Okay.
I'll tell you, I did the stupidest thing. So Fridays, my dog goes in with my boyfriend when he teaches the lead class, and Robbie goes with him on Friday because he doesn't.
Sweet Robbie. I love him.
He is the funniest dog. But all day yesterday, my boyfriend kept making excuses as to why he wasn't going to bring Robbie on today. And I kept saying, don't be ridiculous. Robbie loves going to the Shala. You love bringing him. The students love him. You just made a big deal about how this was his job now. On Fridays, he has a job. So finally he takes Robbie and he comes home. He goes, you ruined it. And I was like, ruined what? He was like, I couldn't go by the store on the way home to get flowers because I had Robbie and I kept trying to hint to you that I couldn't bring Robbie. So
no.
Like, okay.
You're like, well, I'll watch him now. Go to the store now.
I was like, I gotta go to the store later anyway. I'll get my own damn flower. I was like, oh, bless his heart. He kept arguing with me about why Robbie today, and it just did not even occur to me that today was Valentine's Day. So, sometimes
it takes a minute to click. Okay,
yeah, for a while you just don't even, So
that's sweet of him. Todd's a sweetie, man.
It was the thought that counted. Yeah. He was trying really hard to leave Robbie behind. And I just didn't understand why, because, anyway, so.
That's all right, sweet.
Guys. Well, I'm going to put all of Jessica's links down. Please make sure you go and subscribe to her channel and share. You guys make sure you like and comment and share. Both Jessica and I talk about very strange topics that sometimes the powers that are still being just a little bit more don't like. And so they try to hide our channels from the mass public because of things we're talking about. So if you like this information, please make sure to like it, because if we get a lot of likes, like at least 500 likes, that really pushes our videos into the algorithm. And so we can kind of beat the system. So we thank you so much for all of your support, you guys. And yeah, go check out Jessica's channel. Make sure you join her for a live. And we'll see you all very soon. Bye, guys. Thank you, Jessica.
Bye. Thanks, Bryce.